Recently, I wandered into my local game store in search of, well, nothing in particular. A game, I guess, but nothing specific. Some flashy box art caught my eye, so I swiped up the game case to admire some edgy, cel-shaded artwork. Void Bastards. Dang, great name. Tough looking cover art and a pretty good price. I imagined how great it would look on my game shelves. It sported that seductive M rating stamped on it. You know, the one mom and dad wouldn't let you have as a kid. Today we're renting Void Bastards in an attempt to see if the game lives up to all the promises it seems to offer on the box. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to 3-Day Rental, the video game review show where I take a game from my collection and play it like it's due back at the store in 72 hours. The inspiration for 3-Day Rental was absolutely from my childhood because a trip to the rental store meant a chance to play a game that wasn't one of the 5 that I owned for the NES. That also meant giving that game a really fair shake, even if it wasn't good, because not playing it meant going back to my small collection of games. Today, from Australian developer Blue Manchu, we're checking out Void Bastards. Let's get into it, shall we? My first time loading into Void Bastards had me shouting across the house that I had just discovered a top 10 favorite game. The game just has so many elements that as a gamer, I get excited about. The narrative is delivered in a comic book aesthetic, and gameplay is bookended beautifully by illustrated comic book scenes. The game does a fantastic job of truly making the player feel as though they're playing through the pages of a graphic novel, and the events that unfold are up to you, the player. Void Bastards isn't afraid to show that it's not taking itself all too seriously either, by perfectly blending in just the right amount of dark humor. I found myself confident in some moments roaming the halls of tiny spaceships with my newly upgraded weapons, while in other moments running terrified just hoping to make it back to my ship alive. Void Bastards is laden with choice, and that's something that I relish as a gamer, and that choice is meaningful and ultimately consequential too. But at the end of the day, I didn't find myself longing to dive into the next play session, and was left wondering if I'd even ever finish the game. This is Void Bastards, and the story goes something like this. A broken down spaceship carrying 1 million convicts floats through space. Bax, the ship's AI concierge, has begun rehydrating convicts. Oh, did I not mention they're stored in powder form? Bax has tasked the newly rehydrated convicts with collecting parts to restore the ship to working order. And that's about it. Off you go, exploring the nebula. While the story isn't deeply immersive, it really doesn't need to be. The story has few characters, and that really works in the game's favor as there's absolutely an atmosphere of isolation as you work your way alone through space. In an effort to repair your ship to working order, you'll be asked to journey through space and scavenge for parts. Bax will keep you on course, asking you with specific items you'll need to find in order to progress the main storyline, while other parts you find might be useful in upgrading weapons and gear in your arsenal. You play as any one of these freshly rehydrated convicts dubbed clients. Clients can and will die, and in my experience die often. And after each death, Bax rehydrates a new, unique client for you to play as, each with their own randomized traits. Traits range from disadvantages, like a cough that can alert nearby enemies, or advantages, like the ability to locate certain item types on the minimap. Void Bastards is a well-mixed cocktail of 3 things: roguelite, strategy, and first-person shooter. Planning out your route across the nebula is not unlike Star Fox 64, and in a more complex way, like FTL. The player is presented with a multi-route map and is allowed to blaze their own trail across each nebula. In Void Bastards, maps are randomly generated each time the player starts a new journey. What I wish I had realized earlier is that traveling up and down through the nebula depth, not left to right, increases the difficulty of enemies you're going to encounter. While traveling left to right, I was inadvertently also going deeper into nebula depths and was continually frustrated at how hard the game was. I eventually settled for decreasing the difficulty settings, which helped my cause, but the whole experience would have been far more satisfying had I known I could just travel back up to make things a little easier. One more thing to consider before blasting away, and that's weapon choice. Because the player is able to see which enemy types they'll be facing on each ship, choosing the appropriate weapons, and making sure it has enough ammunition to go with it, both play a part in whether or not you're going to make it off that ship alive. Weapons are all upgradable via your workbench, assuming you have the parts needed to improve your arsenal. Once you board a ship, Void Bastards becomes a first-person shooter, and most ships will require you to do some good old-fashioned blasting away. Some enemy types are fairly easy to deal with, while others seem nearly impossible, taking all or close to all of your ammo to deal with. Alright, I think it's safe to say that I'm a fan of the graphics. If I haven't gone on enough about them already, I think the comic book style is cool as heck, and I'll say it again, the graphics freaking rock. There's a really cool combination here of 3D environments blended with 2D sprites, drawn and displayed from various angles and different positions to give them life. The look of the world is absolutely a weird mix of futuristic science fiction that's still soaked in a bureaucratic, paper-based timeline, with some rooms still laden with stacks of unfiled documents. The art style is beautiful, and I'm absolutely on board for it. The soundtrack, while amazing, isn't something that I'm going to listen to with the windows rolled down while driving around in my car, but don't get me wrong, the track Krellmart Hot Deals is a total bop. Just listen to it. Well, that track might be a bit of an outlier, but most of the others are ambient and atmospheric. The tracks do well to immerse you in a world that absolutely fit the visuals. There are totally a handful of songs here that I'd keep on my chill video game music playlist. The rest of the tracks here are, while anxiety-inducing at times, perfect for the game. Somehow the tracks that feel the most stressful are always playing when I'm tearing down a hallway in a spaceship trying to stay alive while being chased by dozens of enemies. Void Bastards keeps a steady flow of dark humor headed your way too. Fans of the 2011 PC title, The Stanley Parable, will notice the familiar voice of Kevin Brighting voicing Bax, the friendly artificial intelligence in charge of getting the Void Ark, the game's main ship, back to working order. The enemies are snarky, and they swear at you as they sneak past. Oftentimes you hear enemies mumbling to themselves, swearing, and being downright rude.
What the holy fuck is that Bax unit doing? I'll be sending the poor halfwit off to find a fancy wee dildo to brush their teeth with soon.
Alright, I want to finish off this 3-day rental with 2 stars and 1 wish. It's basically 2 things that I really loved about the game, and 1 thing that I think could have been a little bit better if they had changed it up. So here they are. Alright, right off the bat, star number 1 for me for Void Bastards has to be the fact that they really give you the sense of being a scavenger. Ammo conservation and resource management is a big part of the game. Each run you start, you're given kind of a different loadout, different amounts of ammunition for each weapon, and so you really do end up feeling like a scavenger, and I love games that put you in that mindset of, boy, I could really run out of ammo at any minute. I've got to make sure to keep on top of things, resource management, so that I can make it to the next level. Absolutely star number 1 for me. Star number 2 for me for Void Bastards absolutely has to be the gunplay. Firing weapons in Void Bastards feels punchy, feels effective. The variety of guns that they have in the game, things like the regulator, the basic pistol, just feels so good to fire, especially when you're playing with headphones on. And, when you've got weapons like the Kitty Bot, which is a robot kitty that can roam around, distract enemies, and explode when shot at, what more could you want in a game? My 1 wish for Void Bastards has to be that I wish enemies dropped ammo. The game really wants to be this hybrid between a first-person shooter and like a stealth game, and I feel like they make certain enemies a little bit tougher in order to make you sort of have to sneak around rather than attack them head-on. But every time you encounter a really big enemy and you unload clip after clip into it, emptying all of your ammo resources, it feels so frustrating to only pick up parts and junk that are dropped and left behind from enemies. I really think if they had added in enemies dropping ammo, maybe in a Skyrim-like way, where you retrieve the same ammo type that you shot at the enemy, it would make killing enemies feel that much more rewarding. So my 1 wish is that enemies dropped ammo. Alright, and that's a wrap on Void Bastards and my first 3-day rental, hopefully of many. I've been wanting to put together a 3-day rental for a long time now. It's something that I experimented with on Instagram, and if you're stuck around to the end, I appreciate you hanging in there, and I'll absolutely have another one up, hopefully as soon as possible. I've already got a couple games that I'm working on. And if you're wondering, yes, I did roll credits on Void Bastards. I ended up going back to it and finishing the game well within my 3-day scope. I sort of do my 3 days over a few weeks, so I end up putting kind of an average of maybe 8 to 12 hours into a game, at least I did with Void Bastards, and got around to rolling the credits on it and felt really good about beating it. Fantastic little experience. Thanks for watching 3-Day Rental, and I'll catch you on the next one.